So there are some words that cannot be translated easily into other languages, and I'm always intrigued by these words. And today I want to talk about one of them, and that word is duende. It has two meanings, two layers of meanings. For instance, in many countries across the world, duende means a pixie, a supernatural creature, you might say a jinn, but it's the main meaning of the word that I'm much more interested in this talk. And when you follow that meaning, duende is an intense feeling or an emotion or a passion. There is an artist, a writer, a playwright, and an amazing poet who was very, very interested in this concept, and that is Federico Garcia Lorca. In 1933, he gave an amazing, a remarkable lecture in Buenos Aires in which he talked about the theory of duende. He talked about the flamenco tradition, for instance, how musicians coming from that tradition would carry almost duende in their souls. It's almost like a force that comes from within. And he mentioned that duende is like a mysterious force that no philosopher can easily explain. So in that regard, duende can be inexplicable sadness. You know, today when we see a friend of ours sad, we immediately ask, what's wrong? We want to know the reason for their sadness. We want to capture immediately the reason and the solution. But sometimes it's very difficult to put sorrow into words. Sometimes we don't quite know why we are so sad. If you feel that way ever, that is duende. And Lorca, in that fascinating talk, he described duende in this way. He said, anything and everything in life that has black sounds in it has an element of duende. Lorca himself was not a stranger to this emotion. We need to bear in mind that as a very amazingly talented artist, there were times he felt like he couldn't convey his own voice, convey his own thoughts and feelings. He was a gay man, and he lived in a very patriarchal and a very homophobic time and society. 3 years after he gave this remarkable lecture in Spain at the beginning of the Civil War, Lorca was assassinated by fascists loyal to Franco's troops. He left us a remarkable body of work. He left us his poems, he left us his plays, but he also left us the concept of duende. And I think we need to honor that concept. We need to think about it more carefully. It's interesting that musicians have thought about this word a lot as well. One musician whom I associate a lot with duende is Leonard Cohen. When I think about his lyrics, his voice, the soul, the energy in his music, I see a lot of duende there. But there is a musician, there is a singer who himself has been fascinated by this concept, and that is Nick Cave, the amazing Nick Cave. In a lecture that he has given on the concept of duende, he asks this question. He says, why is it that there isn't enough duende in the music industry? There's love, of course, there's a lot of excitement when we look at the work that is produced. There's some element, there's some degree of anger as well, but sadness, not so much. And Nick Cave says, actually, maybe there isn't much money in melancholy. Or he says, because it's of the speed of the music industry, you cannot rush melancholy. You have to give it time, You have to take a closer look at it. You need to handle it with care. And nobody has the time in a constantly shifting, fast-moving music industry. No one has time for duende. And yet, duende has always been important for so many musicians, for so many ballads. For instance, the land where I come from, the geography where I come from, when I think of Anatolian ballads, Turkish, Kurdish, Greek, Armenian, Jewish ballads, songs, old songs, they have so much duende. But equally, when I listen to flamenco from Spain and beyond, when I listen to fado music from Portugal, I see duende there. And that's the fascinating thing about duende, isn't it? Because on the one hand, it's so local. You feel like it is only something that you know about, but then you realize actually other people, miles and continents, have been feeling the same way. So Duende is an important part of my work too, and I think when I look at my own books, some of them have more Duende, some of them have less. And I know that they have changed me because it's an intense emotion that changes not only its audience but also the artists themselves. So here is to Federico Garcia Lorca, here is to Leonard Cohen, here is to Nick Cave, but more importantly, here is to the concept of Duende. May it long live and may it continue to inspire us.